hand in being integrated.
All right, and we're going to bring in right now former NASA astronaut and commander of the International Space Station, Leroy Chiao. Sir, great to see you again. I know you were listening again. What are your takeaways from what we heard so far and all of the investments being made into space exploration?
Well, this is exciting because Artemis 2, I think, kind of gave NASA and frankly, the whole nation a shot in the arm. Everyone's excited about this program. We've been hearing about it for decades, literally, and here we are. We finally launched Artemis 2, and now we're about to announce Artemis 3. And the cadence, the proposed cadence, is exciting that we'll get humans back to the moon possibly as early as 2028. And so, they're obviously invigorated. Jared Isaacman is the right person to be leading NASA right now. He's young. He's obviously very successful, self-made billionaire, done a lot of things, including getting himself trained up to fly fighter jets, owns several fighter jets himself, and has gone into space a couple of times with SpaceX. So this is an exciting moment, and the crew that's going to be named or about to be named, they are, you can bet they're jazzed to be a part of this next flight.
Absolutely. So what else do you think we're going to learn about the Artemis 3 mission? And also, who do you think might make up the crew?
Yeah, so I've been out of NASA for a while, so I really don't know the vast majority of the current astronauts. I've met a few of them. I've heard a few names, thrown around as possible candidates for Artemis 3, but we're just going to have to wait till they actually make the announcement. I mean, they're obviously the ones that are going to be selected are in the audience, but you can see a lot of blue suits there in the audience, so hard to guess who's going to be there. But, there are several astronauts who are already committed to ISS missions, perhaps other obligations that NASA has for them, and so they won't be in the running. But whoever it is, you can bet they're going to be very excited, of course. But they're also, they're ready to step up to the challenge. This is going to be an important mission. This is exactly like the Apollo 9 mission of the Apollo series, where they tested the lunar module in low Earth orbit to make sure it was going to work before they went over, brought it over to the moon. So an exciting time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Really exciting time for our country. And Artemis 3 was originally planned as the first crewed lunar landing in over 50 years. Can you talk to us about the mission now, focused on low Earth orbit, and what drove that change? And could the mission possibly change once again?
Well, change is always possible, right? But I think this was the right thing to do, to insert this mission between Artemis 2 and an actual human landing, because you don't want the first time that you're testing your lander to be when you're actually going to put people on the moon, right? And so Artemis 3 will allow the crew to do what they did on Apollo 9, which is put the lunar lander through its paces in orbit, not so much landing on anything, but just make sure the systems are going to work, life support, thermal control, electrical, communication, all that stuff. Make sure you can easily dock to the vehicle or vehicles. Hopefully there'll be two up there. And, just put it through all its paces before sending it to the moon. As you heard in the briefing, it sounds like NASA is planning to send these landers to test themselves on the moon, to land without humans on board in preparation for Artemis 4. So if all that goes well, who knows? We may actually get Americans back on the moon by the end of 2028.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. Stand by, because we're going to go back to the presser to hear a little bit more about what is happening. Such an exciting time.